Rollin', 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 rawhide.
Rollin', 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 though the streams are swollen, keep them doggies rollin'.
Howdy folks, today let's talk about the Timsock TS-316. Here's a joke, Tim's socks. Thank you very much. Alright, we have a 10.2 millimeter dynamic driver. And that could be anything. It could be 9 point something, 10.0, 10 point something, who knows. Usually they do that to throw people off the AliExpress trail, if you know what I'm saying. We have a 32 ohm impedance and 102.5 decibels per milliwatt, and basically that means you can run this off pretty much anything, phones, dongles, your mom. And it is 500 monies, although 600 on Timsock's website, but on sale pretty much everywhere else for $4.99. And it also says that they have a unique blue coating diaphragm for ultra high fidelity. Blue does make better sound. That's scientific. Also, it has 1 Tesla flux, apparently magnetic strength for incredible details and clarity. So this is all good things. So let me go ahead and flip over to, by the way, just real quick, steel shells. They are not super heavy, but not also super light. I'd prefer, for 600 bucks, let's make these out of aluminum. I think they're steel, honestly, but if they're aluminum, then, I'll eat my foot. Anyway, let me flip over to my desktop and we'll look at a few things. So over here we have Timsock's website. I don't know if there's anything else to say on this. Reference class from every single angle. No, not really, but okay. Stainless steel, hand polished. Okay, well, medical grade stainless steel. So yeah, aluminum might be a little bit lighter. And then also, if you're the type of person that is using them in extreme temperatures, they might have water, because it's a shell that can get cold. Sweat from your ears can condense on them. It's just something I thought of. I didn't take them up into the wilderness, so I don't know for sure, but something. And anything else? There's a little breakdown of their dynamic driver and little graph right there, which mine doesn't match exactly, but that's no surprise, and mine never do. And they respect your music, and were founded in 2018, so really it's a fairly new company. According to other people, the cable and the box are quite nice, and so is the unboxing experience, which I would appreciate, since it is $600 or $500. Anyways, so as far as the fit goes, I'm going to call it fine. There's no pokey bits. You'll get fingerprints on it. I really don't care about that, but you will get fingerprints in case you care. Yep, it's steel, not super heavy, but we could do a little bit less weight if like I said, man, 600 bucks. Let's get this thing perfect, which is apparently what they're going for. Overall sound signature, we're going to call this harmonish with extended treble. However, it has a lower 8-ish dB of ear gain. I think it's like 8.2, and that means there's not going to be any shout around the 2.5K ear gain peak. However, this is a tad V-shaped due to the amount of bass and treble. And just to speak of this, the transients on this are not super strong. They're not super tight. They don't sound like balanced armatures. This pretty well does sound like a dynamic driver. Okay, we'll move on to sound metrics. So bass, and by the way, I really had to work at this. If you had asked me about a week ago what I would have measured or rated this like, I would have given you different numbers entirely. But I don't know whether today is just a bad ear day. It's not really. I mean, I can hear pretty well today. It's just that I pretty much have been tuning other sets for the last few days, and I didn't try any of those today, but essentially, and I'll get to this, it just by having those in my ears so much, it revealed some flaws in this set for my library, and so I'll talk about that. Bass, we're going to give a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. And probably closer to a 7.5. And so it's good quality bass. It's not like bloated. It doesn't feel too loose, let's say. Like the driver feels like it's fairly high quality. However, it doesn't have enough mid bass for older tracks and or metal for myself. And it does have a bit of a dueling subwoofer kind of sound, not as good as some of the better sets that I've heard, but it's, in other words, it's got a little bit of a separation, stereo separation to the bass notes, so I appreciate that. Yep, they are somewhat, bass hits are a little bit organic and soft rather than super hard hitting like a BE coated, beryllium coated driver. Which tend to be viscerally powerful, and the transient smack on the actual bass notes is really hard. This does have an extension into the subs, which is quite good. In other words, it'll get down all the way to 20, 10 hertz, no problem. Can push a fair amount of air, but oddly enough, I measured it, and it comes out to about 12.3 decibels of bass at 20 hertz, but it does not sound like it's that much bass. It's a little bit weird, like... that should already be bass head, essentially, and it just doesn't come across like that for me. Haven't really figured out why, honestly, just a thing. Moving on to mids, and so this is going to be pretty much how my entire review goes from this point on. So mids are going to give a 7 out of 10, and I possibly would have gone lower, but they're actually pretty nice for what they are, which is a slight V-shape, essentially. Mids are not the focus of this signature, I would say, pretty much at all, in my opinion. But they do have clear mids. It's just that they're slightly V-shaped, right? So, but they are about 8.2, like I said, decibels of ear gain at about exactly 2.5K, which I appreciate. So there's no shout factor going on as you turn up, really. What you will notice probably as you turn up is that the treble ends up being the limiting factor, I think. And I didn't even put volume scaling, but I'll talk about it on here. So vocals have a slightly hollow quality in general, and that's pretty much across the board on every track. Also the same with acoustic instruments, especially if I try classical. They're really not my favorite mids. They're not bad, it's just not the focus of the tuning. And I think if anyone knows my reviews, I'm a big mid guy, so, you know, one of those things. So they're not bad, but they're not the focus of the tuning, and I wish that if we had something closer to about 2.3K ear gain, like that peak, I'd be happier, honestly. But it's around 2.5K, just to well, I'll bounce over to the graph in a sec. Treble, we're going to give an 8.5 out of 10, which is actually fucking outstanding for a dynamic driver, in my opinion. I would say this is the best part of this IEM's tuning, probably why the price is $500. It is like naturalish, meaning there's no like peaks that poke above everything else necessarily. So it's fairly linear, but it's pushed. So it's a little higher than standard natural treble, but it's natural in the just sort of the way it's actually tuned, the linearness of it. It has really good air extension for a dynamic driver. And like I said, yeah, that's why I think they're, you know, Chi-Fi tends to be like chasing that treble dragon. So this really does good for a lot of those type of folks. And I do find it really quite fun on a lot of tracks, which would be, you know, say tracks that have like OCD styled twinkly treble stuff really well mixed. And it's going to be less good with something like grindcore. Just pick the absolute extreme, which is a little bit crispy. Just to mention that. That was Brutal Truth, which I tend to use as one of my more extreme tracks, genres. Their stuff is, you can just go look it up on YouTube and you'll get what I mean. It's just rough, man. It's rough. It's mixed to be pummeling and abrasive, and so if your IEM is mixed or tuned in any way, shape, or form that has push treble, you're going to hear it drastically. Anyways, so, but overall, I think the treble on this is quite outstanding for what it is. So 8.5 out of 10. And you could get like a multi-balanced armature set and some of the higher end stuff between $500 and $1,000, 500 and 1,000. And I think you'll find that this set matches right into that range really nicely. And yeah, SimGots really should take a note about this. I feel like the treble is much better than SimGots, although not everyone else will probably agree with that. Resolution, I actually just popped that in there at the end. 7.5 out of 10. It's like standard for a nice dynamic driver. I would say no extras. However, the treble does give you an impression of a little bit higher resolution, but then you listen to the bass and the mids and it's like, not really. Okay, so stage. The wideness factor on this is really, really nice. Excellent. One of the best you can get for one dynamic driver. And it's actually similar to a lot of $600 sets in whether they're hybrids, tribrids, whatever. It's got really nice wideness. So 8.5 out of 10. Depth factor, we're going to give, so that, like, I would say depth would be like, sort of like the contrast between bass to mids to the ear gain area, and it's got a nice scoop there. So we're going to give the depth an 8.5 out of 10. Really does, in a lot of tracks, feel like you're, you sort of like a huge huge venue, right? And the bass sort of like resonates out within that venue. That's sort of the depth I'm talking about. So really quite good. Imaging, we're going to give an 8 out of 10. Naturalist imaging with flare, probably due to the treble slight pushedness. It enhances positioning, I think, left to right. So really quite good. Thinking about that, I'm actually going to bounce that down to a 7.5. And it's just because I think there's actually sets that do a little bit better with the imaging. I feel like it's more of a diffuse, natural imaging. Some tracks, though, can really punch through that if they have, like, I don't know, sparkly treble. But, all right, we'll do 7.5 out of 8. I'm just talking about this with myself. All right. 3D, we're going to give a 7.5 out of 10. It would be better with less mid-scoop, and that's just the way it is, man. You suck out the mids, there's a lot of that 3D swirliness that just goes away, man. It is fun on a lot of tracks, and it will go slightly behind my head. It's really quite wide. There is some 3D placement in space that you can pick out, but it's more diffuse than it is pinpoint, let's say, in 3D as well. 7.5 out of 10. Transient smack, I don't know why I put that under stage. That should be under the... Anyway, it's just DD-like. I don't really find it to be like above that, balanced armatures or a planner, for instance. Snare drums, however... well, not however, but they don't really pierce, and they're not pushed to the front of mixes like a heck of a lot of IEMs with a harsh transient smack, just to mention that. All right, now we're going to move on to kind of really, how this really affected me on my music genres. And so then, yeah, you'll figure it out. Blues, we're going to give this a no for blues. Stevie Ray Vaughan was quite good. Robert Cray, the cymbals were mixed hot in a lot of those tracks, and they're just too hot on this set. So you have like a little bit of a V shape on the vocals. Robert Cray's vocals sound a little bit hollow. The cymbals are coming in too strong, so you're lacking a little bit of the center, the mid range of the mix there. And also, V shape isn't doing the best work here. Bass is a little bit too high in the subs, and the mid bass isn't strong enough to really pull off a good blues. So pass, no, Classical is an absolute fuck no on that. Actually, the more I tried classical, the more pissed off I got, and that's probably why I'm a little bit angry at the set today, because I don't generally listen to a lot of classical, and I tried to work it out. It was like, Jesus, man. Acoustic instruments sound hollow. That's just the way they do. Just anything, violins. And so, just to mention this, if you toss, let's say you own this, you toss some EQ at 2.2K, about 4.5 dB, classical immediately starts sounding better. It takes a little bit of that mid scoop away, pops in a little bit of a forward mid-range mojo, and that's exactly what this set needed, in my opinion. Anyways, classical is no, not for me. Disco, actually pretty good. And I haven't really talked about this. I do have Motown and older funk and R&B mixed into my quote-unquote disco. I'll have to make this better on my next lists. But it's actually really good. A lot of disco, a lot of Motown, older stuff is really, really mid-range focused with lower bass, and this tuning hits me really good with this. I suppose, I don't know, the treble is just sort of like fine, I guess you would say, but actually, just because of the way the mixes are and the way this is tuned, it just hits a really nice spot. Mids are not V-shaped in this style of music, in my opinion, on this set, and the bass has enough bass to pull up the low end, where on a lot of sets it sounds too thin. So overall, pretty good. Like disco, like Motown, funk, pretty good. Electronica was good. Some tracks were like great, but some tracks get a little bit spicy in the treble because of the sort of quote-unquote push treble. Bass is fairly fun for a lot of tracks with bombastic bass. Stage is wide, that's nice. You know, it's got some banger qualities, and electronica really tends to like banger stuff, so we're going to give that a good. Jazz is an absolute fuck no. And so the V shape on this ends up for jazz sounding too sub-focused, not enough mids, and so much of jazz is almost entirely acoustic instruments, right? Stand-up basses. You've got the drums generally on jazz, although they're played acoustically, but they're not played loudly. In fact, very softly. Most of this is in small bars and things like that. So, yeah, it should have a smoky atmosphere for jazz, and this just does not do it. It's too much OCDs coming out, too much subs, and not enough meat on the bones, the mids. And so, nope, not hitting the mark, no jazz. Metal is good to less good. It's just basically that, you know, a little bit of hot cymbals. I would say it actually is better than a lot of, like the Simgots, for instance. It's better than that. But it's not the focus of this set. It's just, like, good. It's not amazing. It's not excellent. So you're not buying this for metal. But I can listen to it, and I'm okay with it. R&B was good to great. And so by that I mean that it's got plenty of bass, although not extreme amounts, which is weird from the graph. Oh, let's talk about the graph before I miss that. Jesus, here's our graph. So there's two graphs here. The pink graph is with my standard wide bore. I got them out of the Tanya, the Tanchjim Tanya box. I use them a lot. And then the, what is that, sort of brownish, got orange, I don't know, whatever brown graph that is, which has a little bit of extra energy right around 4.5K to 5K. That's using Spin Pit CP100s. I thought I would break those out because Hawaii Bad Boy, I think he measures all this stuff with that, so I just thought I'd do that. So like if we take away the wide bore, then we can see that that's sort of the spin fit graph, which is, I don't know, fairly similar to Hawaii Bad Boy's graph. So let's get some metrics here. We got our standard mid scoop. So from, well, I'll just measure it out. We'll go from here, mids to the subs at 20 hertz. We are at 12.2 something, 12 point something decibels, like 12.5, 20 hertz, which honestly, that should be like pretty damn bass heady, and for some reason this doesn't come across as being bass heady. It's weird. I don't understand it. I have other sets that have a lot less bass and they sound stronger somehow. Just weird. Yeah, don't know. Then we're going to check the ear gain area, so that's right around 2.5. It starts, I don't know what we're at here. I don't know, but we'll say right around 8 decibels. Okay, cool, 8 decibels. And then if we look at the wider bore tips, then maybe we're at just a little bit higher. Not much, you know. 8 decibels ear gain area, and then if you use wide bore tips, you get a fairly even slope downwards into the treble area. We got our 8K peak matched, and the stuff above 10K is not accurate on a 711. However, we can definitely see that, you know, if we sort of took an average of all of this, we'd be like, I don't know, maybe here-ish or something. So actually the treble above 10K is probably, I don't know, roughly similar possibly to your mid-range area. This dip is down there pretty far, maybe something like this. I don't know. It's only a couple decibels down from the mid-range. Anyway, it's got a lot of, it's pretty strong in the air areas for damn sure for a dynamic driver. And so that's probably a lot of the X factor on this is going to be the micro details, the air factor for one dynamic driver, and just actually the treble replay on this it's a nice driver for treble replay. Anyway, there's our graph. Bounce back over. So R&B good to great, excellent bass, deep subs, OCD treble works fantastic for most R&B stuff, including like rap. You know, good stuff, man. Like it. Reggae was, we'll call it good. And yeah, we'll just call it good. Cymbals can get a little spicy on a lot of tracks. Bass does good work for the most part. I prefer a little bit more mid-bass. Vocals can be a hair hollow, and not too bad though for some reason on a lot of, you know, so many reggae tracks are male-centric vocals, so I found it to be, you know, good. We'll just call it good. Also, reggae has a ton of mids in general, so because this has a bit of a V shape there, balances out, good to go. Rock was good to okay. More mids would have been welcomed along with less subs. More mid mid bass anyway. Treble isn't an issue for the most part for most tracks. A little bit of spicy cymbals in some cases, but good to okay. Soundtracks, we're going to give good to excellent. Soundscape type stuff is really excellent, deep, detailed, like that deep, bombastic, epic feeling. Does a great job with that. Stuff that's more vocal and instrument centric is less excellent. The tiny bit V-shaped, but other metrics seem to make up for that in terms of the staging, the wideness, stuff like that. Has a nice epic feel, so good to excellent. Vaporwave is going to be good to excellent. Mids don't really matter for Vaporwave. Really nice staging effects on this, so not as 3D as the best stuff ever. And Stage Mojo helps a lot on Vaporwave. Vintage and Lounge, we're going to give good to less good. A little bit of a V-shape, blah, blah, blah. Prefer the 2.2, 2.3K. Decent Mojo for a lot of tracks. All right, conclusions. I had a hard time with this set, and that's because I keep bouncing back and forth between, like, some days I really wanted to recommend it and shout from the rooftops how wonderful it was, and some days I'm just like, damn, what the fuck am I thinking? So clearly, there's a lot of brain things involved with this. Also, I'm been slightly sick for the last, month. Probably another round of COVID, so I gotta get over that. So, but my ears aren't plugged. Pretty sure I can hear pretty well. So it's more like just my mental attitude right now is a little bit down today. But also, it makes me happier when sets really knock it out of the park, and this one wasn't really doing it for me today. So, like, out of all of the genres here, like, soundtracks, good to excellent, and then, like, disco, probably good to excellent, and then, like, what else? Maybe Vaporwave. So, yeah, it's like, I don't know, not a lot of my library is really, like, just hitting the mark on this, and there's certainly no cry factor going on. I never got, like, emotional about this set, but I was enthralled with the OCD details, shall we say. So this morning I went and fleshed out like all the genres and made notes, and that means I have fresh ears and a fresh brain in the morning, and it did worse. Whereas it seems like at night when I've been like tuning sets and I'm tired, probably less critical, it does a lot better for me. So is what it is. I would say that anyone, today, right? I've been tuning the Dark Magician and the XLS stuff, so that's really mid-centric. So that's over the last few days. So today I'm over here trying this, and it's just like my brain wants that, and it's not getting it, right? So not appreciating the lack of mids today, shall we say. And also, some days I'm just listening to like a certain genre. Today I listen to all the genres, so something like that. I would say anyone that actually owns this set, go ahead and add 4.5 decibels at 2.2K. Use whatever the hell EQ you can have. Just add a little bit in there. And pop around to tracks, flip the EQ on and off, and tell me if that doesn't sound better. I think it'll sound better. You'll just see. Many of my issues that I have vanish instantly when I do that small EQ. I do like the OCD stuff a lot on this set, like a lot, like for reals. It's one of the best. Like, I really like dynamic drivers and pulling off OCD details that you can generally only get with high-end hybrids or tribrids. This is cool shit, for reals. It just is. And so it's not a full-on win for most of my library, but some of it. And as a result, I'm not going to recommend it. I'm not going to say it's bad either, and in no way is it bad. It's just one of those sets that's like not tuned exactly for me, but it's a good set, good driver, good, right? Just possibly not for me. If the price were around $250 to $300, I'd be probably more forgiving, maybe even try and get a pair. But as it is, probably not going to happen. And also, just if you made it this long into the video, for $600, the Dark Magician is in a higher tier than this, in my grand, stupid opinion. It pulls the punches in the mids and in the heart of music more for me than this set does. It's just, it is what it is. Also, the Dark Magician is $600. This came out at $600, etc., etc. You can't get the Dark Magician, but it is a set that I had. And if we're talking about Twilight is more swirly staging. I do think it's more 3D. I think that Twilight is more mid-focused, and it's also a little more shouty. Those are the main differences and I do like Twilight more than this, and clearly because I had to get me one immediately. So, in the end, I'm not going to recommend this, and I'm not going to say it's a bad set. I think it's one of those kind of things that you probably ought to listen to, try and get a pair from someone, borrow it, whatever, and flesh out whether it's going to work for your library the way you like to listen to things. I think if you're a treble OCD bro, you're going to fucking love this set. I really think so. If you're not super picky about mids. But, end of the day, not going to work for me. Wish I could have recommended it. Thank you, Grizzly, for sending me these. I think that, honestly, well, if I had to guess, I would say that maybe like the Motown, the funk stuff, R&B is maybe more of your library than mine, so they probably hit you a little better. That's just my best guess. But I know you love them, and so I got to send them back to you, and I'll talk to everybody on the next one.